We stay for a bit.
Why?
It's just really good seeing you. I'm gonna go as far as I have to go to make you love me. Put your wop in my mouth.
Alright, Sistas fans, hope everybody's doing well. Yeah, I got a good portion of Sister videos still left in the old gas tank to burn out between now and October 13th, which is allegedly the return date for Season 3, Part 2. Now, this particular video is one of the first of a small handful I have to do, where I'm going to be talking about different elements from the trailer breakdown I did, which you all have blown up to over 30,000 views. Thank you so much for that. Basically, this video is going to be focusing on the brief scenes between Danni, Preston, and Danni and El Fuego. If I'm not mistaken, the trailer actually starts off with El Fuego. It looks like they're at Danni's place, either after a date or after being at Club Eden. Either way, he's feeling Danni and, you know, starts making out with her. And it's kind of a surprise because, to be completely honest, if you look at the episode where he debuted, I want to say it was the one where the cliffhanger was Karen telling the girls about the lawsuit that Jasmine has filed against Andy and her friends. So well, actually, I don't think that was the cliffhanger. If I remember correctly, Andy went over to talk with Robin, and then Gary showing up was the cliffhanger. So essentially about 2 or 3 episodes ago. Now, in that episode, you couldn't tell me it wasn't Sabrina who might end up as the sister that he would end up trying to get with, because Danni, when she heard about El Fuego from Sabrina, he's like, oh yeah, I know Club Eden, strip club, yeah, I know about it. So it seems to me like, you know, El Fuego and Danni probably have been aware of each other since his change, if you will, since the college days where, you know, he was overweight, didn't have good teeth and everything. So essentially, it just seemed to me like Sabrina would have a new potential love interest tying into the Club Eden / All the Queen's Men series, instead of trying to force the Calvin and Sabrina dynamic. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that Zatima is the first fan shipping name of the entire season. I mean, series. We're halfway through season 3, and Zatima is the only couple with an actual name that fans are rooting for, aside from Danni and Preston. But that's gotten to the point where I don't even think that's going to happen, just because Danny's self-sabotaging. But the point of this video is, I thought El Fuego would be with Sabrina, or at the very least, you know, a love interest. That way the Calvin thing can just kind of fade away, because I just don't see the point of Calvin being part of the show anymore. And then when you look at the Danni Preston, there's the moment where Preston says, I want you to put your wop in my mouth. It's like, I'll do whatever it takes. I'll go as far as I have to go. So until I make you love me. I feel like this isn't the best direction, but that's just me. Here's my thing. Preston is a great guy. It's just that Danni doesn't know how to handle a good thing when she gets it, which I can understand, because Sabrina made it clear that, yeah, Preston is something that Danni isn't used to. A good guy. Typically, Danni meets someone, she moves way too fast, sex, yada, yada, yada. And then whenever she gets bored, she just tosses the guy away like a plaything. Or if he does something wrong and she gets pissed off. Hence why, if you look at season 1, Danni, seriously, look at like the first half of Sister season 1. Danni is definitely the wild one of the group, you know, the one that chases after men and whatnot, and thirsty and whatnot. So really, Preston is kind of somewhat, well, lassoed her up and calmed her down, for a lack of a better phrase. It's just, the thing is, it's completely reasonable to look at Danni being the self-sabotaging kind. Her and Sabrina are definitely 2 peas in a pod, where Danni overthinks everything. And, well, actually, that's more so Sabrina. No, Sabrina allows everyone but herself to make a decision when it comes to her life, specifically her relationships. Danni, on the other hand, is just unsure of how to handle a good guy like Preston because she's never had anyone like him before. And to be completely honest, you know, at one point I was like, yeah, she made a good point. You know, do they really have that much in common? But then when you really think about it, is she really making a solid point? Or is she just trying to push Preston away by not straight up saying, hey, I think we need to have some space? And then when you look at the flip side of the coin, you look at the fact that Preston is a great guy. He's loving, kind, he pays attention. He wants to hear about Danni's day. He wants her to let him know what's on her mind. And, you know, in the same vein, have her listen to him about his day. It's just the fact that she's the one who has gotten bored. It seems to me, Danni, it's hard to tell. It's hard to tell whether or not she doesn't know how to handle a nice guy like Preston, like she says, or if, for a lack of a better phrase, you know, she's simply bored with this simple cowboy. And to be honest, I think Preston deserves better. I'm not saying I want Preston off the show, but damn it, he doesn't deserve to be treated like this. I mean, it's just one of those things where I remember towards the end of season 1 where she literally told Preston, stop blowing up my phone and whatnot. And Preston, you know, did exactly what she requested. And then when he was gone, she was confiding in Zach, well, mainly venting to Zach, and he pretty much told her like it is. This is the problem with women. It's like you say do one thing, and when men actually do what you tell us to do, you get mad because, oh, wow, you know what, he ain't shit, he ain't calling me, he ain't, you know, checking in on me. But it's like you're the one that said give you space. You're the one that said stop calling and texting. And then as soon as she sees him on a date with another woman at the club, she gets pissed off about it. So it's just ridiculous because it's just one of those things where Danni is going to mess around with Fuego, like what's his name, the guy from the booty licker from the gay bar, the one that you know, came home with Danni, that according to Preston painted one hell of a portrait, but we never got to see it on screen. You know, and she has a wild time with a guy, and then she'll probably fall back into what Sabrina said. You'll hook up with a guy, you move too fast, then you get bored, and then it's over. I think the El Fuego thing might be a one and done. Who's to say? Or let's say Preston comes over and he talks about WAP, and then like the next morning, El Fuego shows up in the same way the booty licker did, and then Preston's like, what's going on here? So I just feel like Preston is written to be quote unquote simple in the fact that, hey, here's a blank slate of a nice guy. It's an interracial relationship. He has family members who don't like black people, but he's a person who doesn't see color. He's a person that looks at the heart rather than the skin tone. So I think for me personally, they should have definitely done more with the Preston and Danni dynamic. And instead of making Danni just so resistant in fighting against a nice guy, or at least at the, you know, it would have been one thing to have Danni just straight up say, look, you're around here too much. I'm sick of, you know, pretty much walking over each other because, you know, everywhere I turn, there you are. And then Preston turns into an asshole, which I feel like would have been character assassination. Well, I paid rent for 3 months. My family kicked me to the side, so I have no choice. So you're stuck with me. I would have hated if they'd done that, but at the very least, it would have given more of an understanding reason why Danni wouldn't want to be around Preston. But you have this nice guy, and it's kind of the opposite of what Andy and Andy does. We have the mountain of seemingly good guys who are not married, who are interested in her, but she just walks all over them. She might call them up, you know, to let off some aggression, aka having sex, but then go right back to Gary. Danni, on the other hand, is just keeping Preston along on a string, and part of me is like, you know, maybe he should see the red flags there, but she should just straight up say, hey, I'm having an issue, here's the problem. I mean, who's to say that if she didn't just be straight, if she wasn't just straight up with Preston from the get-go, that maybe they could have worked things out. It's like, well, Danni, thanks for telling me. Let's see if we can work through this, because of the fact that you should have told me that you were tired of me being around, or, you know, this or that. The problem is, I feel like Preston left the apartment thinking that he was the issue. Sure, you could argue that it was Danni's issue, but she even said, "It's not you, it's me." And I'm like, yeah, that's it. I would have just left and never come back. So now we got Preston coming back. I don't want to say looking all pitiful like Aaron did when he went over to Karen's apartment at the beginning of the season, stripped down and everything and embarrassed himself. But I just feel like, Preston is the kind of guy who should just move on and find somebody better for him, who's ready for the kind of sweet, gentle, and nurturing man he is. Now, going back to El Fuego, I just feel like it's Jacoby 2.0. Like, I remember when he was introducing the trailers, I was like, wait a minute, Maurice is talking about getting revenge. What if Sabrina stages like a sex tape or something like that, or having El Fuego be an aggressor and then shows it to the boss to counteract Jacoby and the Me Too movement he was using against Sabrina? I mean, that would have been devious, but that's why I thought the story was going. Because when you think about it, El Fuego with the tattoos, muscular, whatnot, that kind of fits the bill for the kind of guy that Danni says Sabrina's into, not the sweet guys like Calvin. So they're both it's kind of weird because of the fact that Danni seems like the one who's out for a wild ride, one night stand, but then Sabrina's the one who is the girl she's the girl next door, the one you want to bring home to introduce to your family, but she wants to do it on the motorcycle. But then it's like, as soon as she quote unquote matures and realizes, you know what, I need something more reliable in a partner, that's when she'll go for a guy like I've actually talked with a couple of fans and they said, you know what if Preston and Sabrina got together? That would actually be somewhat interesting. I don't know about Aaron and Sabrina, but I think Preston and Sabrina would be an interesting fit because of the fact that Preston seems like the kind of guy Sabrina would be just fine with. As someone who's very indecisive, I think Preston is the kind of guy who's patient enough to work with Sabrina through whatever she's going through. And I'm not saying I would officially ship it, but I ship it. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Were you as surprised as I was when we saw El Fuego and Danni going at it at the trailer? Do you think Preston should just move on? Or do you think that when he comes back to talk to Danni about her WAP that she's going to cave in? But here's the thing with that. This kind of reminds me of Grease, where it's like a girl changing her entire personality and persona to get the guy that she wanted. And that's a bad message, but I'm not saying, Danni kind of did that at the end by becoming a jock, but he didn't really change all that much. But when it comes to Preston, it's like he's the one who's doing most of the changing to make Danni feel more comfortable, when Danni, all she has to do was just simply be honest, and open, kind of in the same way that Zach has been asking Fatima to be. So there we go. But let's talk about it more in the comment section below. Make sure you like and subscribe, and I'll talk to you next time.